Thank you, Professor Ananda Yang. You have beautifully introduced the importance of South Asia Center to truly make the University of Washington a place of excellence in research and being more inclusive in terms of promoting local understanding of culture, region, and religion and politics and so on. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you all into this afternoon session. My name is Anis Rahman. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Communication and an affiliate faculty of the South Asia Center. I'd like to, of course, extend my deep gratitude to the South Asia Center for hosting this event, as well as to the Jackson School of International Studies and the Department of Communication for supporting this event. I also acknowledge and thank the Coast Salish people of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Squamish, Tulalip, and Mukulshut nations, as well as other tribal nations of the region on whose traditional lands we study and work. So why this topic as the beginning of 2023? South Asia is currently at a critical juncture. After a long hiatus, populist politics and authoritarian tendencies have returned to the region with a mask of ultranationalist ideology. While the political strategies of leaders such as Narendra Modi and Imran Khan have been well discussed in the field of international studies, there has been relatively little examination of the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, and her party, the Bangladesh Awami League Party. Under the stern leadership of Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh has effectively transitioned into a one-party state over the past 15 years. The government has implemented authoritarian regulations on electronic and online media in order to control the ideological narratives surrounding the party, national identity, economic development, and electoral legitimacy of the government. The party is willing to go at great lengths to suppress any criticism of its action. Today, we are honored to be joined by Dr. Fahmidul Haq, a visiting professor of experimental humanities at Bard College, New York. Dr. Haq is a prominent critical media scholar and public intellectual from Bangladesh, very well known for his numerous books and papers on South Asian film and media in both English and Bangla. He is also well known for his activism against authoritarian oppression and human rights violation. He taught at the University of Dhaka for 17 years and at the University of Notre Dame in the USA for 2 years. Additionally, Dr. Haq is a digital content creator and he hosts a live show called Haq Kotha on Facebook and YouTube, which engages local activists and critical thinkers. Lastly, I must mention that Dr. Haq is also my former teacher. From him, I have learned and I continue to learn how to be a good human being and a teacher with a sense of moral duties. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Haq for his talk on the rise of authoritarianism and communication policy in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Anis, for the introduction and for the initiative of this talk. And for me, it is first time in this West Coast and in Seattle, first time. And I was welcomed with rain. I found it was raining in the airport, but this day is quite sunny. So I was claiming that Seattle is welcoming me by a smile. Thank you all, Professor Anand, for approving this talk, and Nick. We had several email conversations. At least now we met in person. And professors and the students and others from this place, University of Washington, I can recall one of my book chapter was published in a book on South Asian cinema, which was published by University of Washington Press. I thought it is relevant here to mention. So let's proceed to the talk. If you allow me, you can see the title, right? Rise of Authoritarianism and Communication Policy in Bangladesh. So I want to share a chart here collected from Freedom House. You can see the number of countries that improve its democratic norms is only 25 in 2021, but the decline you can see 60, which was quite opposite a few years back. In 5, you can see the spike, the blue spike is higher than the red spike. So it is, the situation is not very encouraging, and we see is a global decline of democratic norms, rather rise of authoritarianism in the global context. And I want to share the quote from Freedom House 2022. I would request someone, when it's 30 minutes, to remind me so that I can check my flow of conversation. Okay, the first quote is from 2022 report. Those countries that have struggled in the space between democracy and authoritarianism, meanwhile, are increasingly tilting toward the latter. And the next quote is from 2021 report. Fewer than a fifth of the world's population now live in a fully free countries. This is part of a longer trend of democratic decline and rising authoritarianism that's been underway across the globe for the last 30 years. So from that chart and from these two quotes, you can get a global picture. If I'm not focusing the South Asian context, I want to go directly to Bangladesh context. Before that, how do I define this very term authoritarianism? I want to share with you. I want to mention Snyder's work. He actually studied the non-democratic regimes, and he found there is a spectrum between the closed authoritarianism and democratic practices. So also he was quoting Shedlar, who was trying to say there is a foggy zone between liberal democracy and closed authoritarianism. So maybe Bangladesh and some other countries will fit in between this spectrum. Hedenius and Terrell, they are trying to say there are three kinds of authoritarian regimes. One is monarchy, example might be Saudi Arabia. Other is military, might be Myanmar as an example, and there are some other countries. And electoral authoritarianism. So can we put Bangladesh in that category, electoral authoritarianism? There is elections, but still authoritarianism is very much evident in that country. Alirias calls it hybrid regime, where election is politically manipulated. And he after analyzing last two general elections, he said the country is sliding towards authoritarianism. So you can see it is going towards authoritarianism, but it's not a closed authoritarian nation, but it is standing in between liberal democracy and closed authoritarianism. Yeah, in that way, we can think, where does Bangladesh fit? You can see me in the picture, right? So personal is political. It was on July 9, 2018, there is a movement going on, a student movement who were demanding reform of quota system in government jobs. So gradually the movement was getting bigger and bigger, and so the attacks were coming from the law enforcing agencies, at the same time by the student wings of the party in power, Bangladesh Awami League. So the student wing is known as BCL, Bangladesh Chhatra League. So actually people like us, faculty member, activists and say intellectuals, we are trying to defend the students' rights to demand something from the government. So we went to in front of the press club where the rally was taking place, but the police was like beating them out from the scene, and they arrested one activist, took him to the prison van. So me and other activist Professor Rehnuma Ahmed, we also get onto the prison van in protest of the arrest of that activist. So the officer in charge, he ordered to arrest me. So that was a tussle between police and the activists who were trying to take away me from the police. So it was a was front page news in that day, in the next day, and the picture was published in the Daily Star, the leading English daily. So for me, if I share my experience, I faced a lawsuit in July 2017, filed by one of my colleagues who was connected with the University Authority. The authority was elected by the teachers' party, which was connected to the government in power. So there is also a news. Especially back in 2017, that kind of lawsuit was like a great news, big news. So for 3 days, it was like a newspaper coverage, and there is an understanding between the two parties, and the lawsuit was withdrawn. So for the same movement on July 16, 2018, it was another place, Shohid Minar, where the students were trying to gather with their demands, and the BCL activists, again, they attacked, and they also attacked us, 5 of our colleagues who were there to defend the students. And some other professional discriminations were there. So you can see a person speaking here who was like humiliated, discriminated by the people who are closely connected to the power. So by describing myself, actually, I'm trying to provide you the greater picture. And you can see in different surveys and studies, Bangladesh is here. The Freedom House report is partly free. They are measuring the freedom existing in the country, and the score was 39 out of 100. And you can see the banner, the poster over there, holding by the woman, Mot Prokashe Shadinata Jai. That means we want our freedom of expression. And regarding the electoral authoritarianism, the election is there, but it is manipulated. And I wrote during that election on 30th December 2018, একটু সাবধানে 301 যেন না হয়ে যায়, go slow, don't make it 301, because the total number of seats was 300. They were manipulating the thing in a way, in a speed, in that speed. So it's a sarcastic post, and they actually got or bagged 280 from the 300 seats. So I'll give you some information that will provide you the idea how the rise is taking place. Bangladesh Awami League, current hybrid regime, authoritarian in nature, holding power since 2009. The 2008 election was substantially fair, but the elections held in 2014 and 2018 were not participatory and were rigged by Awami League goons and abiding law enforcing agencies. Once a liberal democratic party, Awami League the 1971 that led the 1971 liberation war against Pakistan. But the party has gone through many reforms. The PM Sheikh Hasina collaborates with a section of Islamic forces and has destroyed the oppositional political parties and has made Bangladesh nearly a one-party state. The country ranked 162nd in the annual World Press Freedom Index 2022. That report was published by Reporters Without Borders. The government enacted Digital Security Act, which is a draconian law described by many people, 2018, which is a weapon to create a culture of fear. Enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killing by the state agencies are regularly reported. So I have made this figure where I want to describe how this regime is trying to govern the nation. I find 3 C's: credo, coercion, communication. So they have been using some ideological norms, course, and they are using some coercive manners, and they are using some communication channels. So my focus will be on communication channels. So I'll discuss more on communication, but briefly I'll also discuss this credo and coercion part. Okay, I'll begin with credo. Awami League regime highlights and propagates a few ideologies through their loyal communication channels. One of them is the spirit of 1971 liberation war. And this liberation war was led by Awami League. Their founding leader, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is considered as the father of the nation. And it was a popular war. There are other leaders too, but the dominant discourse focuses only on the father of the nation, and this credit is only given to their own party, Awami League. But it was a popular war. Different people from different background, they also participated. And also there are some great leaders along with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur. And through this spirit of 1971 liberation war, I want to share that the other political parties, BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, their founder was a freedom fighter, but he came from the army background and later became politician, and part of his regime was military regime. Then he tried to be political and civil government leader. But while forming the party, he actually included many people or political leaders who actually collaborated Pakistan Army and had some position against the rise of the nation. And also in the later years, this BNP was forming a government with Jamaat Islami, which the party actually formally and in action, they actually did many war crimes during the war. So it was very easy to declare Awami League as pro-liberation force, and the other parties, they are anti-liberation force. So it started from there, but anybody critiquing the present government, they are also described as the anti-national, anti-liberation war, and following the spirit of Pakistan and something like that. So they are using this this liberation war discourse in favor of their actions and against the critics. Other ideologies, development discourse. Awami League government propagates about their economic success. Bangladesh now has a modest economic size. It is the 41st largest economy in the world. It has higher GDP growth, 7%. Yet there is huge class disparity, corruption in mega projects, money laundering by people close to Awami League. So and also recent recession and inflation has created some question regarding this development discourse. So whatever the thing is, the idea of development, it might have some modernist projects, and if it is not, the fruits of the development is not distributed among all kind of people, then it is a questionable thing, right? Okay, but they use through their mega project like Padma Breeze, Metro Rail, and Karnofuli Tunnel, they actually try to glorify themselves through this development discourses. They're also subdued to the religious forces. So there is a new religious force, Hifazat Islami. They're against Jamaat Islami, who committed war crimes, but they are actually allied to this new Islamic forces. And there are seldom attacks on the Hindu minorities in different times, especially when the Hindu festivals are coming. That time we see different kind of attacks on the Hindu people. And fortunately, they are very much blessed with the loyal civil society, the intellectuals, the writers, the journalists. They think Awami League is pro-liberation workforce, so we should support them. And it was nothing wrong, but whenever the party is doing bad things and repressing general people, still they are supporting that party, party in power. So this civil society is quite loyal to the government. So they could use all kind of ideologies I have mentioned here. And you can easily find the coercive actions by the government. They acquired absolute power with the help of intelligence, law enforcement agencies, and their own activists and goons. They persecuted a lot of people through enforced disappearance, extrajudicial killing, abduction, and filing lawsuits. And in that way, they could create a culture of fear in the society. And this Digital Security Act, which was enacted in 2018, that was a great weapon for persecuting people. And in the society, there's a patron-client systems to get jobs, to get different benefits of the government. You need to pass through the party identity. That's another measure of coercion. I must discuss about the DSA, Digital Security Act, which I have mentioned here. It is described as a draconian law. For DSA, any evidence is cognizable. Police can arrest a citizen without a warrant, and they can do that if they think some offense or some criminal act might happen, and most of the clauses of the act are non-bailable. So you see, there is no space for the accused for the legal battle. So if you are caught, you are gone. So the act is designed in that way. So in this table, Riaz again studied some cases in between. I can see the dates, whatever. Thank you. So he studied 426 cases filed between January 1, 2022, March 25, 2022. So the accused people, they were arrested actually. Journalists, educators, politicians, students, and some other people. So I am sharing some newspaper reports. They are the victims of DSA. CU teacher Maidul remanded for derogatory remarks on PM Hasina. Thanks God he is able to come to the USA for his PhD program, but he left the country a few days back. But before that, for how many years he was not allowed. It was the file was cased in the lawsuit was filed in the year of 2018. So he has been trying. He had some admissions, but he could not leave the country because of that law or that case. University teacher arrested under Digital Security Act for Facebook post over Nasim's death. Nasim was a minister of the government and he died. And maybe this teacher, I can remember, she showed her satisfaction in the Facebook page that a person like him is gone. That was her crime. Accused of hurting religious sentiment, Hriday Mondal, who was a high school teacher, he was arrested first. He was under the DSA lawsuit and he was arrested, sent to the jail. And this news shows that he got bail. He was discussing in the science class, he was discussing evolution of human being. And that was secretly recorded by a student. A student with some local seniors, guardians, and there is a lawsuit with that evidence, and he was arrested. Hriday Mondal is from Hindu community. That is the dimension here. Okay. So I'll focus now on communication policy. This slide is focusing on the ownership pattern of the media. Before that, Bangladesh has 45 private television channels, 28 FM and 32 community radio stations, and 1,248 daily newspapers. This is deceptive number because maybe 20 to 25 daily newspapers are regularly published, but this might be the registration numbers. And more than 100 online news portals. They enlist Riyaz and Rahman 20 acts and policies that shape the nature of media. There is only one state-owned TV and radio channel. However, the private media is controlled through ownership patterns and legal frameworks. What is the nature of the ownership? There is no distinct licensing policy for electronic media, but in practice, the license is given only to the business class connected to the government. So Anis Rahman calls it the politico-commercial nexus. The repressive broadcast policy, it was enacted in 2014, and there is a great debate on that broadcast policy in the society that has confirmed a loyal electronic media. Historically, the newspapers have been relatively free, but their freedom is curtailed in recent years. Regarding freedom of expression, Bangladesh, during this regime in 2011, it was the ranked number was 112, but in the last year it came down to 162 out of 180 countries. You can see the decline, the rise of authoritarianism and the decline of freedom of expression in Bangladesh, which is closely connected. There are some cases. Eminent photographer Shahidul Alam was arrested in the midnight from his house by the law enforcing agency. His crime was to give an interview to Al Jazeera regarding the ongoing protest by the high school students and the demand of road safety, because two school students were died in an accident in the heart of the town. So that was a great case. There is a nationwide protest for the release of Shahidul Alam. and it was an international news too. And Gayatri Spivak, she is in protest for the release of Shahidul Alam. She is holding 54 days. Actually, he was released after more than 100 days. He was in the jail. And that made him the person of the year in Time magazine. And Shahidul Alam again is protesting against the disappearance of a journalist whose name was Shafiqul Islam Kajol. He was abducted for a few days. Later, he was found in the border of India, and he was arrested, sent to the jail. Now the protest started with this banner, Free Kajol. So where is Kajol was the first movement, and later it was Free Kajol. Regarding digital media, Al Jazeera on February 2, 2021 reported Bangladesh bought mass spying equipment from Israeli company. Bangladesh doesn't have any diplomatic relations with Israel, but yet they are buying interceptive machineries to surveil people. TVS News reports on November 24, 2022, Bangladesh government has requested Facebook for data on 1,171 users in the 6 months from January to June 2022. In response, Facebook provided information on 66% of the accounts the government requested. Well, now a bit theoretical aspect from the experience of Russia, China, and Turkey team, who finds two important strategies taken by authoritarian governments in digital platforms. One is troll army, other is flooding. So troll army is like there must be some online users who are connected to the government. They will ridicule people who are critiquing the government. And the flooding is producing huge volume of information on behalf of the government, and the volume would be so huge that the people or the readers or the other users, general users, they will be confused regarding the fact and fiction or the false fake. So it is really difficult to find which is fact and which is fake news in these digital platforms. So these strategies are also used by Bangladesh government, which is authoritarian in nature, maybe close to Russia, China, and Turkey. Okay. And also manipulative contents are created, and I'm expecting there's an election in the next year. Before that, there will be several enormous amount of deep fake contents to create some fake items and to undermine some people of opposition party. Actually, both of the corners, they are producing this kind of fake news, and it is getting really difficult to find the fact in the digital platforms. I should discuss something from the cinema sector. Despite several amendments, the film censor codes uphold the spirit of the censor codes that was enacted by British authority during British period in India. The draft of Film Certification Act, there is a Film Censor Act that is criticized by the people, by the filmmakers and activists. So there is a new Film Certification Act. The draft of Film Certification Act 2019 includes grading, ranking. That was a demand from the film sector. However, the clauses 6.1 and 6.2 allows the chairman of the board and the district commissioner to withdraw certificates of any film that is running in the theaters. Earlier, it was like there's an if some film is not getting the certificate, there is an appeal board, you can go through legal procedures. But after you get the certificate, it is free from everything. Now you are getting certificate, but you're not free. You can the film can be withdrawn from the theaters anytime. In my previous article, I found you cannot critique three entities in Bangladesh, especially for the filmmakers: 1971 Liberation War, religion, and army. So self-censorship is a norm now. Bangladeshi cinema is going through nearly a new wave. Exciting works are coming. A new generation, they are making great films, but the film censor policy remains as the main barrier here. Here is the case. Saturday afternoon is banned in Bangladesh. It was based on the terrorist attack, massive terrorist attack on July 1st in 2016. But Bollywood is releasing Faraz on February 3, 2023, after a few days, based on the same incident. So this film will be available everywhere, but that film, it is shelved until now, and there is a campaign going on to release the film or to give the certificate. Also, regarding the publishing industry, this happened 3 days back. Adorsho Publisher is denied to get a stall in the Ekushi Book Fair 2023 for publishing books critical to the government. So they mentioned three writers, or at least one writer who wrote kind of book previously. So this year they are not getting stall. Basically, there's a book fair in every year annually in the month of February. Bangladesh publishing industry is quite small. That is the month in the book fair most of the books are sold. So that is a great way to control the publishers. The writer Avijit Roy was hacked to death by assassins at the book fair in 2015. He was an American citizen too. In the same year, publisher Faisal Arifin Dipon was killed by the terrorist for publishing Roy's book. But this killing was done by the extremist groups. But the massive attack and this kind of attacks, until that massive attack in 2016, the government was doing nothing against this kind of killing, killing the writers, killing the publishers, killing the bloggers. And only after 2016 massive incident, the government became active, control these extremist groups. Because a lot of foreign citizens were killed in that day. And police check books in the book fair to filter out anti-state and anti-religious texts, and occasionally they ban book, arrest the publisher, or close the store. So I'm in my last slide, some concluding remarks. So I have said that there is a global rise of authoritarianism, and it is through this discussion, I want to conclude that it is propelled by neoliberal economic policies, ultra-nationalism, and religious populism. And these aspects are also evident in Bangladesh society. Bangladesh is no exception, with an added layer of grabbing power forcibly. Say in India, we can see neoliberal economic policies, ultra-nationalism, and religious populism. But the election is, at least until today, is fair. But for Bangladesh, it was not fair in the last two general elections. So we are getting here, it is an electoral authoritarianism. And also controlling the communication sector is one of the ways to establish authoritarianism by this current regime. If we want to bring back the democratic norms in the society, for me, it is socialist democracy. we need to understand first why and how does authoritarianism work in a certain society. I tried it in Bangladesh context to understand why and how it is working. You need to do it in your own respective contexts. That is my concluding remark. Thank you all for your patient hearing. I'll be happy to answer if you have any.
If if there's been increasing censorship in books and film, has there been a rise in criticism on social media by Bangladeshi citizens? Like, are they using that as a platform to express their criticisms?
Regarding digital platforms, what is your question?
So if there's like a rise in censorship in books and media and journalism, and that's kind of how Bangladesh is using its authoritarianism to limit pushback, has there been kind of free access on social media for people to talk?
Okay, I'll answer to that. After getting some other questions.
Thank you so much, Professor, for all the insight, and thank you for coming out here. And this was very good information regarding Bangladesh. You mentioned that Hivajatul Islami, yeah, and that is a new religious party that has came into being. Do you see any connection between Hajat al-Islami and the rise of the Taliban in Afghanistan, who have recently toppled a democratic government in Afghanistan? If there is, I would also want to know. Thank you so much.
We can answer.
I would just add to the first question.
Yeah.
What are the spaces available in social, excuse me. What are the spaces available in social media to critique the government? Are there ways people are finding different outlets that go beyond what you were talking about, the institutionalized ways that are being shut down?
Oh, please.
Hi, thank you. I'm from Bangladesh, so do you think after Sheikh Hasina has like either stopped participating in politics, passes away, do you think AL will be able to maintain their power over the people in terms of having that favorability within the general population?
Actually, it's not clear to me. Please repeat it.
You said if Sheikh Hasina is no longer the one in power or in charge of AL, do you think they will still manage to maintain their position of favorability within the country?
I was curious about the US position, the State Department, ESA, what is the status? What are the comments?
Sorry. Closer.
Do you have any advice on how to disrupt the sense of loyalty that survivors and the children of the survivors of the liberation war feel? How to get them to think critically about the changes in the regime and how authoritarianism has come back in extreme ways without jeopardizing their sense of national pride and determination. I'm thinking about my parents' pride over the nation and of the father of the nation, and how that masks the criticality, like what's actually the horror that's going on right now, the injustice that's propelled by Hasina's regime. Yeah, I guess if you could just say more about loyalty and disrupting that for social justice.
Okay, if the mainstream media is controlled directly, there might be an idea that people can talk through digital media. But as I have said, DSA is developed to target those digital platforms, at least the users. So someone is writing against the corruption of local Awami League activist or an elected local government personnel, he might be facing the lawsuit through this DSA. Someone, Awami League activist, can file a lawsuit, and if someone is facing that, he is really in a trouble. And actually, whatever we see harsh criticism against this current government, it is through the digital media that I want to say, but perhaps they are staying outside of Bangladesh. That is the reality. Now, regarding that question by Professor Fahad, which is a bit connected to this first question, the US position. Actually, to my understanding, Bangladesh politics was closely monitored and by only one international entity, that is India. They are very much interested about what is going on in Bangladesh, and they really try to determine who will be in power, and it really works in that way. Whatever was missing, that was evident in earlier decades, but meanwhile, I didn't see any response from the USA. Especially in the last two general elections, they didn't say anything, and maybe DSA, they didn't say anything. But the track record of Rapid Action Battalion, who are accused of doing extrajudicial killing, that became international news gradually, and the State Department has done something against this crime against humanity. That is, they actually sanctioned ban on RAB, and it is still there, and that really unsettled a bit the government, and they were found a bit nervous, and with that opportunity, my observation is that digital media users, they started becoming more vocal. There is a kind of vacuum is created, that is, the government looks nervous, so let's be more vocal. So it depends on how the government is acting. Okay. So if I go to the next question, Hifazat versus Taliban. No, Hifazat is not like an organization as you see Taliban. They are actually very much interested about implementing the rules and laws of Quran and Sunnah. So there was a movement in 2013 against the war criminals, and some portion of the society, they actually portrayed a newspaper, especially. This movement is run by atheist bloggers, which is very partially true, but not the whole thing. And the Hifazat actually, their arrival came from that context, and they are actually madrasa background people, and they don't tolerate this rise of atheists and anti-Islamic texts. So they actually came forward and they made a different protest in the other circle of the city, and they actually arrived as a new force, and the government found it a new force and they must be managed and handled with care, and so they actually developed a kind of ally with them and giving them different benefits in terms of money, in terms of properties and everything, and they are under control now.
Call John.
Yeah, and she got the what should I say, title by the Hifazat, that is, she is Qaumi Janoni. That means mother of Qaumi, because she actually there is a program from in the madrasa Daware Hadith or something like that, and it the PM gave the master's level status to that program. So in that way, she has been able to manage those people. Okay, if Sheikh Hasina is not in power, I don't know what will happen, because we didn't see any person like her. She's so omnipresent, so powerful. She has a good track record of doing democratic movements. And the 2008 election was fair, but later she became authoritarian in nature. Her people were doing this and that, corruption and repression, but somehow she understood, I need to hold the power, otherwise I'll be killed, my people will be killed. So she's just doing, she's just continuing to hold back the power. Actually, her father was killed by the anti-liberation force, really. Her father, the father of the nation, her brother, and other family members were killed in 1975. And from there, the country went to a different direction. She was also targeted by the party of opposition, by the BNP people, when she was in a rally, when she was in the oppositional party. The grenade.
In 2004.
Oh
The grenade
no,
attack?
2011.
Okay.
A grenade was thrown towards her. So there are some other people killed. She lost her hearing, but she was survived somehow. So she is, to my understanding, she is very vindictive in those reasons, because she lost everything, and she always tried to say that. That's a danger point, because she is there to take the revenge. So people's right is not her priority. That is my understanding. Okay. So if she is not in power, I don't know what will happen. But Awami League is a political party. It has some other people. They will come forward. I don't know what will happen. But yeah, Bangladesh must go on. I don't know.
No, Anis is right. 2004.
2004 was Bangla Bhai attacks in the.
The grenade attack.
The grenade attack.
That is was implicated.
It was in 2011. I might be wrong. 2004 and 5 was countrywide bomb blasts by Bangla Bhai and others. That was a phase of the rise of extremism. And the other phase is post 2013, 14, 15, the rise of ISIS or locally grown extremist groups, Harkatul Jihad and others.
So
You can Google it might be 2011, if I'm not wrong. Okay. The answer to your question. Yeah, Sheikh Mujib is the father of the nation. I admire him. He had some limitations, but still is the greatest leader of all time. Under his leadership, Bangladesh got liberated, right? But he's and you see the four principles of the liberation war movement. One is democracy, other was nationalism, number three was secularism, and what was number?
Socialism for all.
Socialism for all. So you see a mix of both left, right, and nationalistic principles. That was great for a kind of new country. But Sheikh Hasina was also following that primarily, but later, especially in early 90s, when neoliberal free market economy was adopted, and global people's the external globalized forces were coming into Bangladesh, and as well as the rise of global Islamism came also in Bangladesh, and actually Awami League revised their principles, and it actually went on to a different direction, and that was added with this power mongering attitude. So the Awami League we saw in 1971 or before 1971, it is not the same at the moment. Yeah, I'm sorry, it was 2004. I was mixing with something. Thank you. So everything is there. I mean, the history is there. The recent incidents are there. You can find. You can with a small investigation. So I just want to say, the father, he could run the nation. He could govern the nation only for 4 years. But the daughter, she has been doing it for maybe 14 and more than that. So she's really cunning and smart woman, as I see. But she's using that to repress people. That is the problem. Did you get your answer?
Yeah. I would love to hear you say also, it seems like they're intensifying the threat of her father and her family being killed to mobilize into inexplicit martial law almost.
Yeah, after the killing, there's a martial law. And this PNP founder, Ziaur Rahman, eventually came to the power. There is a turmoil period just after the killing, so small turmoil period, many ups and downs were there, but actually Ziaur Rahman, the founder of BNP, which is the major oppositional political party at the moment, he actually came into the power. And then another military dictator, Ershad, he ruled the nation in the 1980s. He came to the power. So after the killing of Mujib, there is a one and a half decades of military rule. In 91, by hosting Ershad, both Hasina, Khaleda all together, they actually established the electoral democracy in 1991. But it went on until 2008. But after that, this is a great phase, long phase of authoritarianism.
There are two questions in the chat.
How did the COVID-19 pandemic affect the development of the party's control, if at all? Okay, the second question is, has the DSA been used to limit criticism of the Bangladesh armies stationed in the Chittagong Hill Tracts? The first question, during the pandemic, many countries, they had their minus negative CDP, but Bangladesh yet could hold the GDP growth 3%. Somehow they could manage
It's okay if you just speak up.
Okay. But during the COVID, this repressive nature of the government didn't go away, because I can remember in 2020 maybe, during the COVID, there was a drive of arresting people through the lawsuit of DSA, and a lot of people were arrested. That includes a school boy, 17-year-old. He was not also spared. So COVID pandemic hit Bangladesh and affected the economy, but somehow they could survive with lower GDP growth, where many other countries were having negative GDP growth. I don't like talking with the GDP percentage, but still I'm using that. Has the DSA been used to limit criticisms of Bangladesh army stationed in the Chittagong hill tracts? Well, before DSA, then never Bangladeshi people could never write any criticism against Bangladesh army. Rather nowadays, there's an expert who is running, there's a journalist who is running a newspaper portal stationed in Sweden. His name is Tasnim Kulil. He knows a lot about Bangladesh army, and he personally, and with his newspaper portal, they have been writing against the wrongdoings of Bangladesh army. Especially, they published a recent report titled as Aina Ghar, where that is a actually torture cell stationed within the Bangladesh, within the cantonment station situated in Dhaka city. Yeah, and before that, we have to recall that there is a prolonged period of military rule, as I've said. So that time it was almost impossible to critique anything against Bangladesh. But nowadays we are getting some information, some criticism is there.
Are there any other question possibly? Yes.
One more.
Yeah, look at the microphone page.
It's working.
Nice. I will also ask a question after you.
So your picture of Bangladesh today is extremely bleak.
Yeah.
Are there any hopeful signs? Might there be room for optimism? Because let's say Western companies that are heavily invested in the Bangladeshi economy are starting to exert pressure. These are also what tactics that people use to loosen up things in Bangladesh. Is the government of India likely to put pressure on Bangladesh? Given the tensions between the two governments, that's unlikely. Are there other kinds of ways in which there's any hope? Given what you tell us?
I'm not a fully pessimistic person. I don't see any hope, but still I believe there must be some hopes. I believe on the power of people, and the kind of regime we have been seeing, that is a very new kind of thing. We have seen the military dictators, but in the name of democracy, kind of authoritarian practices are going on. So this is very new for Bangladesh, and I believe people are just taking time, trying to understand the nature of the nature of the governance, and they will find a way out for a better Bangladesh. And I didn't mention about China, especially in terms of economy and regional power. Sheikh Hasina is smart enough to deal both with China and India, and sometimes we see she's heavily relying on India. Sometimes we see she's also has some collaboration with China.
The Belt and Road Initiative. Bangladesh
Yeah. So she actually smartly handling both of the countries. Those countries are always, we have seen smart countries, but she is quite smart too. So she can handle those two countries. And the ideas, the thoughts, the critics, everything is alive some way. I'm talking here, some people from different parts of the world, also inside the country, they are actually practicing, sharing ideas, thoughts, and who knows, one day there will be a change, or we'll find an egalitarian Bangladesh society. I'm hopeful, of course, because people are now connected. They know the difference between bad politics and good politics. They know the difference between they understand the economic disparity in the society. So they will fight back, I think, one day.
Thank you. That was very stimulating talk, including the Q&A and the responses and the explanations we got from you. So when you were my teacher in my undergraduate degree at Rush University in 2001, Bangladesh National Party was in power or ruling power, along with Jamaat-e-Islami being the power sharing party with holding minister positions. So on that time, we saw the rise of or the exercise of power by Mr. 10%, in which the rumor was that any development initiative in Bangladesh, you have to pay 10% commission to Tariq Jia to get access or to maintain your work, the son of Khaleda Jia, the former prime minister. So we also saw the tie with Islamic Chhatra Shibir, the student wing of Jamaat-e-Islami. And my university, University of Rajshahi, was famous for getting shut down because whenever there was party fight between the leftist student wing and Chhatra Shibir, and Awami League wing and Chhatra Shibir will always win. And one of the key tactics they used to win is to cut the ligament of the leg who were running fast or protesting too much. The bleeding will not cause the death, but paralyze for the rest of your life. So those are the signature, some of the signature news of that time, out of which Awami League later emerged after 2 years of imprisonment by military. We know as a 111 equation, in which both Khaleda Jia and Sheikh Hasina shared jail. And then out of the election after that, Sheikh Hasina came to power. So she earned the position to become in the power. And now we are hearing from Awami League leaders that if there is a looting going on, if there is a power grabbing going on, we have the right to do that. We liberated the country. We came to power after this much struggle. If it is the development of Bangladesh, we'll do it. If it is a destruction of Bangladesh, we'll do it. That quote is now viral in Facebook. So that kind of, in a nutshell, summarizes everything. So out of this, one question emerges from civil society, student group, people from every sphere. What is the alternative? So replacing Awami League with BNP will not benefit anyway the country, because it just changes up a name. The nature of informal power sharing, the informal networks will be replaced, but the exploitation and repression will continue. And I do not see in current shape BNP will be able to be there very soon. So what is truly the alternative if people wanted to vote or promote or support? You mentioned loose form of resistance here and there from diaspora, including yourself and our academic work, critiquing the policy making, authoritarianism. But it was BNP who introduced political leadership of television. It was BNP who introduced Rapid Action Battalion. It was BNP who introduced and applied draconian laws to control the Amhalic resistance. You are also part of that secularist movement, sympathizing with Amhaligars. Now you are saying Amhalic is worse. So what is really is the alternative, and where it will take the institutional form and when? If there is any comment about that.
That's a bad question because it is difficult to answer. I'm really helpless now.
Yes.
Well, since 1991, there's an Bangladesh entered into the electoral democracy. So there were elections in 96, 2001, 2008. We got 4 elections, which was relatively free and fair. And people could talk, people could raise their voices. And I really miss that phase. I want back that phase at least to begin with. That's my answer. Now we cannot breathe, we cannot talk.
So you want people to face the wall and turn back
Yeah,
again.
I don't know what would be the outcome, but at least if we get the electoral system back with a free, relatively free and fair casting of votes, that is an achievement. And we have seen that, and it is not.
Impossible.
It's not a long past, it's recent past. Okay. And otherwise, there might be other consequences, rise of extremist Islamist groups, grabbing power by the military. And I don't see any sign of the rise of leftist groups that I mostly believe in. I have said already, I believe in socialist democracy, but I try to be neutral here to describe the whole situation.
Concluding remark.
No, thank you very much. I think we're all leaving much more enlightened. And perhaps just a tad more optimistic about the future of Bangladesh. Thank you very much.